It's the Field of 68's 2023 NBA Draft Prospect Profiles. I am Greg Waddell. I am here with the one and only Rob Doster, and we are talking one of my favorite players in the draft, Keyonte George, a.k.a. Kid Gorgeous, as I called him. It never stuck, Rob. Nobody ever picked me up on that. 6'4", 185-pound guard, primary option on a team with a lot of primary options. 15 points a game last year, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 37% from the floor, 34% from 3. I've said it 1,000 times. There's no bigger heat check player in the country than Keyonte George. When he is hot, I think he's the best shot maker we had in college basketball last season. Is that crazy to say?
I don't know. It's not the craziest thing I've ever heard you say. So that's a positive. When I think of Keyonte, I think of a bucket getter. I don't know if there's a guy that is better at being able to create space for himself. I mean, he's got the step backs, he's got the pullbacks, he's got the drag backs. Every dash back that you could possibly have in an arsenal, he's got it. He can hit 28 footers off the bounce. It doesn't matter if you get a good contest if he's feeling well, because it's going like the defense almost doesn't matter when it's guarding him and he's hot. I think back to the first half of the game at Kansas when I think he had like 21, I want to say, in the first half, hit 5 straight threes. Like when he gets hot, he does not miss. And I think that is something that projects well to the NBA level because he should be able to create that space. And he did it against enough good defenders in the Big 12 and across college basketball this season that I think that he should be able to make it happen in the league. I think that he's really good getting to the lane as well, right? It's not just the pull-ups. He's got the floaters. He can finish with either hand. He knows how to get to the foul line. He knows how to score. He knows how to put up points. Like he's got a natural ability to be able to put the ball in the bucket and put the ball in the hole. I am concerned about the efficiency. And it's not just efficiency as a shooter. His shooting splits 38% from the floor, 34% from beyond the arc, and he had a 1-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. That is if I'm talking about a concern with Keyonte Johnson, to me, that is the biggest concern. Now, when you actually watch the film, right, he got a lot of his assists out of some set actions. They ran a lot of ball screens. That's what Scott Drew does. They run a ton of ball screens. And a lot of it was stuff where he hit the roll man, but it was schemed for him to be able to hit the roll man, right? He has the ability to come off of a ball screen and throw those like one-handed live dribble passes to the weak side corner. What I want to know is how much of that was him reading the tagger and how much of that was something where he was told this is the pass that's going to end up being there. Because you also see situations where he tries to throw that pass when it's not there. And I think that is going to be the key to figuring out what his ceiling could end up being in the NBA. I told you this before we hit record, real quick, Greg. I told you this before we hit record that my comparison for him is going to be something that's a little bit insane. Okay. But if he can figure it out as a passer, right, and he can get the efficiency up as a shooter when maybe, he kind of the game matures a little bit. He kind of understands a little bit better, like what's a good shot. I think Devin Booker is in his range of outcomes, and I think I think Devin Booker is, you can make the argument, the best 2 guard in the NBA today. He's got the passing, like you see flashes of the passing range, right? The difference between Booker and Keyonte George to me is Booker is one of the most efficient shooters that you're going to find, and a guy that has really developed the ability to be like an elite ball screen decision maker. Those are the 2 things that Keyonte George really, really needs to develop to be an elite offensive weapon. I think there's a chance that he can get there. I think that we're talking about like a top 3% possibility, but there's not very many guys that have that have some of the skills that Keyonte George has.
No, I don't think that's as crazy as you teased that it might be, but I'm also a big Keyonte George guy. It's interesting, though, when you consider Booker as a comp going back to the college days, because everybody knows like Booker, he run one pick and roll ball handler screen at Kentucky in his time there, and now he's one of the best in the NBA. Like, we just didn't know off of what we saw in 1 year where he played 20 minutes a game in a platoon system anything he was capable of. We just knew he was an uber efficient scorer who probably leaned more of just a shooter based on what we saw when he was being a floor spacer. But it's interesting because with Booker, like, that almost spoke to, like, I don't want to call it IQ, but Booker was comfortable and unselfish in that role in college and kind of took his time growing into now this alpha dog best scorer in the NBA playoffs. Keyonte George, if anything, it's between the ears for me. He's wired like the alpha dog scorer no matter who you put him next to. I don't know that I would call that necessarily selfish or whatever you want to call it, but it's just how he plays basketball. And I think that could potentially limit him from getting to the Booker level, as weird as that sounds. Like, this guy had a 31% usage rate on a team with two more efficient guards than him, who also had ridiculous usage rates. And that's not necessarily a horrible thing. Like, it's not an indictment of Keyonte looking back on it. He still had a 20% assist rate. It was higher than his turnover rate of 16%. I think he overcomplicates things. I think he looks for flashy plays over simple plays, which speaks to what he could be, his high potential. But you don't necessarily want to see that at the younger stages unless it works. And it didn't always work for him. But man, when you think Keyonte George, at the end of the day, he's the ultimate 3-level scorer. He's like a 7-level scorer. He creates levels that don't even exist for other people. He can get to spots that there aren't even spots on the floor for, that nobody else sees. He changes speeds well. He can finish over contact. He can finish through contact. You mentioned the 5 threes in the half against Kansas. Mixed in there was the dunk of the year in college basketball, where he just beat his man and yammed on 2 Kansas dudes' heads. Like, he's one of the most fun players to watch, and that's why when I project him to the NBA, I don't think he necessarily has to hit as an every possession all-star in order for him to be a really worthwhile lottery pick in this draft, because I think he could be a guy who leads a second unit and dominates against NBA bench units and becomes this piece that most NBA teams don't even have. That's why my comp for him, it's a little homery, but it's Jordan Poole. It's a more athletic Jordan Poole. Like, all of this stuff, the flash, the questionable decision-making, the efficiency stuff was there for Jordan Poole in college. And then he found the perfect situation that let him take if you look at Jordan Poole's NBA numbers, he was like sub 30% from the floor his first year. You thought he was never going to find a spot there. And then he worked his butt off. In year 2, he was running the bench unit. Year 3, he's playing critical minutes in the NBA finals. Keyonte, I think on any team in the NBA right now, could run a bench unit. It just depends on if he finds the right support system, the right coaches, the right trainers that can get him to a spot where it becomes more than that. And the potential's certainly there.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say Jordan Poole, because I wrote down that his most likely outcome is something in the range of a Jordan Clarkson. A guy that when he was the 6th man for the Utah Jazz, they were a really good team, and he was scoring like 13 points and averaging 3 assists coming off the bench. And then the year that he moves into the starting lineup, the Jazz missed the playoffs and he averages 24 and a half, 4.5, something like that. Right. So I'm 100% with you there. Our partner for today's episode is Athletic Greens. I started taking AG1 during the college basketball season, and I loved the impact that it had on my energy levels. I'm a big coffee in the morning guy, but by the time that the afternoon would hit, I needed another boost. AG1 helped me tremendously, especially on those days when I didn't want to get up off the couch and go hit the gym. Their tagline is AG1 is comprehensive health and the power of habit in one. And man, that could not be more true. It's nearly impossible to eat and drink in a healthy manner in the month of February and the month of March when you are in my business. And AG1 was exactly the supplement that I needed to improve my gut health and cover my nutritional basis for the day. I've continued that into April. I've continued that into May, and I'm going to continue that the rest of the summer. All I have to do is mix a scoop of AG1 with some water, or maybe add it into a smoothie, and I'm ready to go. Do it after lunch, and you'll be ready to go for the rest of the day. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/field68. That's Field 68 FIELD, the number 6, the number 8, and you can get yours now. So check it out and help support this show. Thanks. I think that he is an NBA bucket getter. To me, the two things that will determine if he is a complementary piece or a guy that could end up being one of the best guards in the NBA is the passing range, the decision making, and the ability to read defenses out of ball screens. Like, some of that's just going to come with reps. Some of that's going to come with watching film. Some of that's going to come with just the fact that he's no longer a teenager and he gets to the NBA and you're playing in pick and rolls every possession, right? And the other part of it is just the efficiency as a shooter. You can't shoot 34% and be one of the best guards in the NBA. I do think that one really important thing for him moving forward is going to be improving as a catch and shoot guy. Like, you'll never shoot 44% from three, taking tough step backs that he takes, right? Like, those are difficult shots. If you shoot 44% from three on those, like, you're going to be better than Steph Curry. But he shot under 33% when it comes to being a catch and shoot 3-point shooter. For him to really have the best chance of sticking for a long time, getting that big second contract in the NBA, be a knockdown off-ball shooter. So worst case scenario, you are a guy that can be like a secondary, second side ball handler, someone that can play on the ball, play off the ball. You're up your versatility a little bit. Like, you gotta be knocking down catch and shoot jumpers if you are Keyonte George. You got to be a better floor spacer.
Yeah. I buy that skill set for him, by the way. He shot 38% in his year at IMG. He shot 32% this year at Baylor. So there is a dip there clearly, but small sample size. If you just watch like eye test, I don't like being eye test guy. I'm very rarely the eye test guy. His shot is way too pretty to not go in. Like, if he can hit all these ridiculous off balance triple step back jab step stuff, like, the form is beautiful. The fact that he's missing open catch and shoots just makes no sense. And I don't think that's going to translate long-term, but I don't know. It's one of those things. I think he's probably one of the highest ceiling guys in this draft. You could also tell me he's one of the lower floor guys, and I wouldn't necessarily hate that. The one thing is, I do trust, like I said, you could throw him on any team, and I think he can score 10, 15 a game right now, leading a bench unit. And if he's not better than that in the league, hopefully there's a team that has the luxury to not rely on him for more. Situation will certainly matter. But back to your Booker comp, because I can't stop thinking about that now. Booker has reached a point where he has made difficult shots become easy, good shots. Like, the shots Devin Booker takes 20 times in a game are all pretty difficult shots, but nobody's calling them difficult shots anymore, because for Devin Booker, those are easy shots. Keyonte needs to get to that point. I never felt like, even when watching Baylor this year, even though he could make them, I'm like, damn, that's a tough shot. Almost every single time he shot, he needs to get to that next point where the tough shots, maybe they're still tough, they're fading away, whatever, but it's got to get to the point where he's making them consistently enough that it's like, that's just a shot. And I think he's capable. Might take some time to do it, but we will see.
He's got to be elite offensively, because
there's nothing there.
He's not a great defender, I think, is probably the best way to say it. Like, that's not what in the notes that I wrote down. I wrote defense, not his strong suit.
Yeah, I have defensive consistency in all caps. And I think the biggest thing there is, I don't know that there's a want to there as much as it's a can't do it. And maybe that's teachable. I don't know. But a lot of mental mistakes, wrong spot mistakes, effort mistakes stand out in the film with him. What's the earliest you would spend a pick on Keyonte George?
Somewhere in like the 8 to 12 range.
Okay.
I think the upside is there. I don't think the upside is quite what there is with some of the other. I like Whitmore more. I'm not 100% there on the Thompson twins, but I know a lot of smart people that are. I'm very much concerned about the fact that they're 20 years old playing in overtime elite against a bunch of 17-year-old kids. So that's a red flag to me. But I wouldn't, in terms of just college, like, you're not taking him over Scoot. You're not taking him over Wemby. You're not taking him over Brandon Miller. I would not take him over Cam Whitmore. And in terms of some of the other lead guards that are kind of available in this range, I don't think I'm taking him over Cason Wallace.
Ooh.
I don't think I'm taking him over Cason Wallace. So I love the upside, but I'm very much concerned about the lack of defense and some of the decision making. Like, I would have to You know what I would need to do? I would want him in an interview room talking about the ball screens that he's running and what he sees on those certain possessions. That's what I would want. What are you seeing here? Why are you making this decision? Because I think you need to get a feel for how much of the good things that he did were schemed and were basically him just running the play that was drawn up by Bryce Drew, and how much of it was, okay, I'm reading this defense and I understand why this is the play that's going to end up being there. Does that make sense?
100% it does. Also, Scott Drew, put some respect on his name. You just called a national championship head coach Bryce Drew.
I call him Bryce Drew.
Yeah, Scott, how dare you? How dare you?
My apologies.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I think I'm a little higher on him than you. I really, like, gun to my head here, I think he was the probably the third favorite college prospect for me. I would definitely have Brandon Miller over him. I think I'd probably put Jarace Walker over him, but then he's right there. And I don't know, the overtime elite guys you can have a debate over. I think if I had to make a decision, though, like, I expect Keyonte George to have a better NBA career than both of them. And I think if he does reach his ceiling, like, he's the centerpiece of a team the way I don't know that either of the Thompson twins could necessarily get to. Mm-hmm. But they have a much higher floor, right? That's why they're probably the safer picks. We'll see. Very divisive prospect, a fun prospect. It'll be exciting to watch wherever he lands in the NBA draft. And if you want more of these episodes, like the Cason Wallace that Rob just dropped a teaser for, he did Cason Wallace over Keyonte George. Check the description box. We'll be rolling out more than 50 of these leading up to the NBA draft. Make sure you watch our live mock draft as well. That's coming a week before the actual NBA draft takes place. For Rob, I'm Greg. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching the Field of 68. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, hit that like button, share this link with your friends, or check out the description for some other places that you can consume Field of 68 content.